In this video, we'll go over cards which have effects that allow them to attack the player directly in one way or another. And at number 10, we have Masked Hero Anki. This card has the effect where it can choose to attack directly, but if it does, the battle damage it does is cut in half. So with no other modifiers, since its attack is 2800, it would do 1400 points of damage with its direct attack. And alternatively, it has an effect where if it destroys a monster by battle, you get to add a change quick play spell card from your deck to your hand. So, if you don't choose to attack directly, you can still gain benefit from attacking the monsters. So, Anki is all about battle options, which is pretty rare to see. And the great thing about Anki is its summoning condition is just a Dark Hero monster who use Mass Change, which itself is a quick play spell card. So, you can attack with your Dark Hero monster in the battle phase, then use Mass Change during the battle phase in order to bring out Anki to attack again. Or if you attack over something with Anki, you can search out a Mass Change from your deck, and then use it on your Anki in order to bring out another one from the extra deck, and potentially do it again. And it was because of interactions like this that Masked Hero Anki single-handedly made Destiny Heroes a top-tier deck in Duel Links, where being able to attack directly with 1400 points of damage is a much bigger deal when your life points start out at 4000. Especially since it could just attack over your opponent's monsters until they had less than 1400 life points in order to use an Anki to just attack directly. But Anki never saw any play in the TCG, and that's because Masked Hero Dark Law came out first. And it was so much better that there's really no reason to ever go into Anki when the exact same summoning requirements are there for Dark Law, who was so good it single-handedly made hero decks viable. And that's why it's only the number 10 spot on this list. And at number 9, we have Toon Dark Magician Girl. Now, all Toon monsters have the ability to attack directly, but Toon Dark Magician Girl is the only Toon monster in the game who can attack on the turn at summon, making her the de facto best Toon monster. Arguably, some of the newer Toon monsters do have really good effects even if they can't attack the turn they're summoned. But in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, where Toon Dark Magician Girl exists in the game alongside cards like Toon Rollback, you can quite literally win the game in a single turn if you're able to get out Toon Dark Magician Girl with Toon Rollback in your opening hand. Since the starting life points in the game is 4000, and Toon Rollback allows Dark Magician Girl to attack twice, which is exactly 4000 points of damage. The strategy is kind of fragile though, because she is still reliant on Toon World being on the field and not getting destroyed, but if you're lucky enough to pull off the combo, you technically can win on your first turn, if you go second, which any good deck should be able to do anyway. And in the TCG, Toon Dark Magician Girl never really saw any play, and that's because Toon decks never really saw any play, which is why she only gets the number 9 spot on this list, and no other spot on this list will be taken up for Duel Links reasons. And at number 8, we have Earthbound Immortal Aslla Piscu. I should also mention, I am not very good at pronouncing these weird names, so sorry if I get them wrong. Now, all the Earthbound Immortals have effects that allow them to attack directly. So, out of all the Earthbound Immortals, this one is the best, as it has an effect where if it leaves the field, you get to destroy all of your opponent's monsters and do 800 burn damage for each monster destroyed. With the only caveat being that it can't leave the field by destroying itself with its own effect, as this card will destroy itself if there is no field spell card out on the field. So, the best way to take advantage of this card would be with cards that allow you to remove it from the field and then put it back. Stuff like World Legacy Clash, Future Visions, etc. Or, since this card can attack directly and can't be targeted for attacks, you can just keep attacking with it every turn and wait for your opponent to try to destroy it, and then it will just have the effect to destroy all of your opponent's monsters in retaliation. As long as your opponent doesn't destroy it by destroying all the field spell cards, of course, which makes it a pretty powerful card to be on the field, as it both has a good effect while on the field and when it leaves the field. And at number 7, we have Wattpheasant. Now, just like most of the Watt monsters, this card can attack directly, and its extra effect when it successfully attacks directly is to remove from play one monster on the field until the end of the turn. Now, there are ways to take advantage of this by removing your own monsters, like, for example, if Wattpheasant removed Earthbound Immortal Aslla Piscu from the field with its effect, you'd wipe your opponent's board of monsters and get back the card at the end of your turn. And during the Xyz era, this card was commonly used in order to remove Xyz monsters from the field, as doing so would get rid of all of their Xyz material, which was a pretty neat effect to have. And it can also just be used to remove a monster from play, so that the rest of your monsters could attack directly, which meant this card did see niche play in even non-Watt decks, just because of how versatile its effect to remove things from the field for one turn was. And at number 6, we have Spell Striker. Now, this card can special summon itself from your hand by banishing one spell card from your graveyard, which is actually a pretty easy summoning condition to fulfill, and meant this card was used as a combo extender, or as tribute fodder, more than it was used for the fact that it can also attack directly. But this card absolutely was used to attack directly as well, because it had a third effect where you take no battle damage with attacks involving this card, which meant that if you did attack directly and this card remained face up on your field during your opponent's turn, you wouldn't really have to worry about this card's low attack because you wouldn't take any battle damage from it anyway. So you could use it to poke down your opponent without worrying about losing the game to a really high attack monster your opponent summons, which made this card just convenient enough to actually see a lot of play. Especially since you can special summon this card if you search it out with reinforcements of the army by just banishing reinforcements from the army from the graveyard. And at number 5, we have Red-Haired Hasty Horse. Now, this card can attack directly if you choose to cut its original attack in half for the rest of the turn. So, it only does about 1,000 points of damage with its direct attack, and this card does actually see some play. But that's mainly because it also has a really good special summoning condition, where if there is a column with no cards in it, you can special summon this card from your hand to that column. But it does have a bad effect, where if another card is placed in this card's column, this card will destroy itself. And that's why this card is mainly used as a combo extender, as it's a really easy way to get a level 5 monster on the field from your hand. If not, the best way to get a generic level 5 monster on the field from your hand without having to play to a specific archetype. And it just also happens to have an additional attack directly effect, just in case you need to attack directly. And at number 4, we have Trickstar Lilybell. This card has the effect that it can attack directly, and if it inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you get to add a Trickstar monster from your graveyard to your hand. So, right off the bat, this card allows you to gain advantage off of its attack directly effect, which gives it a huge boost over pretty much all of the other cards I've talked about so far, on top of the fact that this card can special summon itself from your hand if it's added to your hand by a card effect, of which Trickstars are able to accomplish this pretty easily. So it has a special summon effect, it can attack directly, and gains advantage off of that attack, and is supported by the Trickstar engine, which is full of amazing support cards that make this card even better, which absolutely makes this one of the best attack directly main deck monsters in the game, as all the other spots will be taken up by extra deck monsters. And at number 3, we have number 82 Heartlandraco. This is a rank 4 Xyz monster who has the effect where you can detach one Xyz material in order to allow this card to attack directly, but your other monsters can't attack this turn. Now, this card is a great tech option in the extra deck, and was included in basically all rank 4 toolbox extra decks, because if your opponent had less than 2,000 life points, and you could make this card during your main phase 1, that's all you would need in order to win the game, which kind of gave players a soft life point gap, where if you went below 2,000 life points, you were in big danger of losing immediately, because Heartlandraco existed. But since Xyz monsters aren't played as much as they used to, this has definitely fallen out of favor, to the point where people aren't even playing Gaga Cowboy anymore, so it's really on here for its historical purposes, and the fact that it still works perfectly well today for the same purpose, it's just not as heavily used as it was in the past before Link monsters were added to the game. And at number 2, we have Sky Striker Ace, Hayate. Now, this card makes this list at a high spot, basically because it's a Sky Striker card, and because Sky Strikers themselves basically revolve around the fact that they have a ton of support cards. So, the fact that Sky Strikers have access to this card, which happens to have the effect to attack directly, means it gets a high spot on this list by default, because of the mountain of really good support that Sky Striker cards have. Anyways, what this card does is it allows you to attack directly, But what you may be noticing about this card is that it can attack directly without any other kinds of downsides to that attack, and it also has 1500 attack baseline. Usually, when a card can attack directly, it either has very low attack, lowers its attack for the attack directly effect, or has some other restriction to the battle phase for the card to attack directly. And this card doesn't really have any of that, in addition to having an effect relating to attacking, where if this card battles, you can send a Sky Striker card from your deck to the graveyard. It's definitely not the best effect of the Sky Striker Link monsters, but it does directly help the Sky Striker engine a little bit, as they do like to have their Sky Striker cards in the graveyard, and they do go into Sky Striker Link monsters very easily. And since it's easy to summon and has no restrictions on its attack directly effect, it does have the downside where it can only be special summoned once per turn, which I guess is its downside for the fact that it doesn't have any other downsides to its direct attack. And at number 1, we have Lyrilusc, Assembled Nightingale. This card is a boss monster of an archetype that was designed to be a boss monster that excels at attacking directly. So of course it would take the number 1 spot on this list. Now, this card has the effect where it gains 200 attack for each Exceeds material attached to it, and it can also attack as many times per turn as it has Exceeds materials attached to it, and it can also attack directly. So, if you're able to bring out this card with 5 Exceeds materials, it will have 1000 attack and be able to attack 5 times, which isn't a 1-turn kill, that's only 5000 points of damage, but if you're able to give it any other kind of attack increase on top of this, with basically any equipped spell or trap cards, you can easily get this card above 1600 attack, which is all you need in order to inflict 8000 points of damage with 5 attacks. And there's even another monster in its archetype that can potentially boost its attack to the 1600 attack point value needed in order to win in one battle phase. And not only that, this card has some of the best protection a boss monster can have, as, on a quick effect, you can detach 1 Exceeds material from this card to make it so your Lyrilusc monsters cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects, and you just take no battle damage for that turn, which basically means it's a Waboku built into it, a trap card so good, it's one of the few that still sees play in stall decks. Which means even if you don't use this card to win in one turn, with its 5 attacks, you can easily stall out during your opponent's turn in order to try again. Because this card is also one of the best stall cards in the game, making this card easily take the number 1 spot on this list of cards that can attack directly. Alright, and that's the end of the video. If you know of any other cards that can attack directly and that should have made this list, or have ideas for future videos just like this one, I'd love to hear about them down in the comments.